A lot of relationships begin because people ignore the red flags. And those same relationships end because of those red flags. I don't want that to be you. I want to help you and save you from falling into that trap. So I'm going to lay out for you the 7 red flags in dating you should never ignore. Now, again, as I said at the very beginning, so many people see red flag, overlook red flag. See red flag, rationalize past red flag. See red flag and makes all kinds of excuses for the red flag. And unfortunately, it's that process of not addressing it that causes people to end up in the wrong relationship, waste years with this individual that they never belonged with, only to end up back at square one, but with more damage, all right, and having to go through this process again, but hindered by the lack of healing they're now experiencing due to past experiences. Now, with all that said, we've got to break that cycle. We've got to stop this overlooking of red flags. Now, let me make something very clear. If you've been watching me, then you know I am not a believer in the minute you see a red flag, you run, you cut them off. That's not how we do things. You see a red flag and you properly, effectively address the red flag. And then if it's not corrected, now we cut them off. Now we let them go unapologetically. We move on because we did our part and we gave them the opportunity to correct the issue. All right. But again, we must address it. So I'm going to give you 7. There's a lot more than 7 we could talk about. And that's why I want you to comment below. But I'm going to give you 7 that came to mind that I wanted to mention in this video. And again, let's just see where it goes. Let's see what else you can add to the list. So number 1, and it's in no particular order, number 1 red flag is they never take any personal accountability. You have to pay very close attention to people. Now, this can be difficult because depending on the conversations being had, depending on the situations that arise, there may not always be a quick opportunity to see if this person can own when they make a mistake. But typically, somewhere in the dating process, there will be a moment where an individual, even yourself, makes a mistake or mishandles the situation, and here is their chance to now take ownership. And if you notice that they never take ownership, that is a huge red flag. But not just in the situations that occur with you and them. Also, when they talk about their past situations or things going on in their life, if every situation is framed with them being the victim and everyone else being the villain that came against them, that's a problem. Now, listen, I'm not saying that there aren't some situations where, yes, they were genuinely the victim, just as you may be. But in most cases, there's something that we could recognize that we could do better in that situation. And it's important that you identify if this individual is capable of doing that. Now, again, I repeat, if you notice they don't take accountability, you point it out. You discuss it with them. And you also make sure that you show a willingness to take accountability on your end, because you can't be the same person blaming everyone else, never pointing the finger back at you, but then holding them to a standard of holding themselves accountable. It's not going to work like that. You've got to set that standard as well. But we need to make sure that both parties are willing to do this, because show me a relationship where people don't take personal accountability, and I will show you a toxic relationship. I will show you a miserable relationship. I will show you a relationship that will inevitably end. So you've got to make sure both people have to be willing to own mistakes, say my bad, acknowledge, okay, you know what, I could have done this better. That creates harmony in relationships, that allows for things to be rectified and allows an environment where we can talk about things, fix them, and move on to better. The second red flag in dating you should never ignore is they talk very badly about their ex. Badly at all. It doesn't have to be very badly. They talk badly about their ex. This is a red flag. Now, some of y'all might be thinking, well, why? Like, you probably talk bad about your ex, so you might be a little triggered by this one. But let me explain to you why this is an issue, okay? One, it can go hand in hand with the taking personal accountability, because when people are talking about their past relationships and everything is about what the ex did wrong and they can never identify what they could have done better, that is a preview to what you're going to be dealing with in your own relationship with them, where they're going to always make it about you and never be willing to hold themselves accountable. That's number one. But another part to that is, if they're talking badly about their ex, chances are they have not healed from that relationship. Listen, you cannot show me someone who has healed and forgiven their ex, all right? And when we talk about forgiveness, understand that forgiveness is for you as an individual. It's about releasing that negative energy, not holding on to that hurt, pain, resentment, or negative emotions. It doesn't necessarily mean you end up back with a person. It doesn't mean you're saying that situation, what they did was okay, but you released it, all right? So when someone has not released through forgiveness, when they have not gotten to a better place, all right, and this is showing in how negatively they talk about their past partner, this is a problem, because this is a sign they have not healed. And if they have not healed, then what are they now bringing into the current potential relationship? So many relationships have failed or gone left because people have brought in previous baggage to this new person. And now you're dealing with things that aren't even your fault. You're having to sift through all the nonsense because of the damage someone else did. That isn't fair to you, it isn't healthy for either of you, and it's going to kill the relationship. So once you see that someone talks very badly about their ex, again, talk about it. Maybe they need some more, well, not even maybe, they do need some more healing. They need to get to a better place, and you want to make sure they find some peace, because here's the other problem. Again, as I said, they bring in that past baggage, but also what happens is they become so easily triggered. So now, if you do anything that in any way resembles a behavior, a pattern that their ex did, even if it's not an actual connection, but to them it looks like it, they're gonna get triggered. They're gonna be on edge. And right there, again, they're gonna hit you with things, not really because of what you're currently doing, but because of what they've already been through. And they're trying to do a preemptive strike. So now, again, they don't even want to go in that direction, so they hit you before you can hit them. That's how their mind is working. So again, it's such an unhealthy dynamic. So when they're speaking badly about their ex, you wanna address that. And again, all these red flags I'm giving you, if it's you, then address it. Don't just look at this from the perspective of what the other person has to deal with. Make sure none of these things apply to you, and if they do, you need to correct it before you move forward in dating. Number 3 on the list of red flags in dating you should never ignore, they lie about the little things. Now, I chose specifically to say the little things because what I have seen in a lot of situations is this brushing off of the white lie. It's not a big deal. It's a small lie here. It's a small lie there. But here's the thing. I've never met a person who consistently does white lies who doesn't give big lies. Okay, like this person doesn't keep it in the box of the small lie. It's not just in the box of the little, what they feel is a harmless lie. It extends past that. So again, it's one thing. I think everyone on the face of this earth has told a quote unquote white lie before, all right? So I understand that it's gonna happen sometimes. But when you're noticing a consistent pattern and consistently lying about things that no lie was even necessary, not saying a lie is ever truly necessary, but when they're just choosing to lie about, well, you asked them, hey, where were you earlier, all right? And let's say they were hanging out with their friends and they could have just told you that. And they choose to lie about it. Like little things like that, and that to some people might be a valid reason. Again, I'm not making it okay. I'm just saying how people think, all right? But the point is, you understand what I'm talking about. There are these situations where it's like, why'd you lie? You didn't have to lie about that. It wasn't even a big deal to begin with. This is a warning sign, because if they don't feel comfortable enough telling you the truth in small moments, in insignificant situations, then imagine what they're gonna do in the bigger ones. Imagine what they're gonna do when there's a greater fear of how you will respond, when there's a greater significance to the outcome of the situation. Because again, understand that most lies are told because people are trying to dictate the outcome, or they fear the outcome of telling you the truth. And so because they don't want that to happen, they tell you a lie. So again, if they're showing a struggle with the little things, they're more than certain going to do it in the bigger moments. So you have to address it and you have to nip it in the bud right away. You can't laugh it off. You can't brush it off. No, let's talk about it. Let's be honest. And again, let's create an environment and a relationship where we can be honest about everything. I know that's very hard for a lot of people because so many individuals are not used to having a very transparent, honest relationship in any aspect of their life. But it's something that you have to establish at the very least in your romantic relationships, all right? At the very least with the person that you're trying to potentially share a life with. If you two can't be honest with each other, forget about it. It's going to be downhill from there. So you got to address those small lies when they lie about the little things. Number 4 on this list is they hang out with bad influences. So here's the thing. I've seen tons of situations where people are not paying attention to the circles that their potential partner is running in. All right. Now, granted, we want to evaluate individuals for who they are and what they show. All right. And I don't want to put their circle, their friends, their family as a full representation of them. Don't get me wrong. But you cannot ignore when your potential partner, when this person you're dating is rolling with negative influences or even in toxic family circles, because it's not about even that they're going to be necessarily toxic, but that toxic energy will pour into your relationship, whether it's through them because now they have to deal with this toxic family and they bring it to you, or that family coming directly to you because you're dealing with their family member. But even going back to the influences, even on that level, perfect example, if you are a woman, you're dating a man, and this man is surrounded by single friends. And again, I don't want you to simply jump to attack the single friends because not every single friend is a bad influence. But some friends, and hell, forget if they're single. They could be in relationships and still be bad influences. They could be trying to push this man to engage in inappropriate behavior because that's how they roll. And you got to pay attention to that. If that's the kind of guys he hangs around, again, address it. It doesn't mean immediately don't deal with him, but it has to be addressed. On the flip side, if you're a man and you're dating a woman and all she has is negative, bitter women around her, you've got to understand now that is a setup for problems because those women are more than likely going to contaminate her mind, contaminate her spirit with negativity. When anything goes wrong, hell, even when it doesn't go wrong, everything could be going great. And they're going to say, you sure he ain't doing something? you sure he's as good as you think he is? They will immediately project their negative perceptions onto your partner because that's all they know. And misery loves company. So they're going to try to find a way to bring down that happiness. Even if it's not a conscious decision to do it, it almost by nature occurs, all right? Because they're dwelling in that negativity. So again, as the individual who is dating the person who is either in a negative family circle or negative influences, friends, so on and so forth, you've got to identify that, and you've got to make sure that one of the ways we address it is by creating safeguards. And one of the best safeguards to create is one, great communication between you and your potential partner. Because if you guys can't talk, or you guys have a gap in your communication, that leaves an opening for the negative influences to come in and contaminate the situation. But when you have two people who can talk about everything, who always sit down and address things with each other first before running to those friends, running to those family members, you have a stronger unit that can now withstand any of that negativity. And naturally, what will happen is that person will pull more away from those negative people if they're not going to change and be better. If they're going to keep trying to undermine the relationship, then they're going to see that there's no value in hanging out with them so much. But again, it's an issue that has to be addressed. It cannot be ignored because so many people have had their relationships ruined because of outside noise, outside influences. So you've got to address that red flag. Number 6 on this list of red flags in dating you should never ignore: how they treat other people. Now listen, I said it in the video before right now. I can't remember the name of the video. I apologize. But I mentioned that, you can tell a lot about somebody. You can see a lot about them in how they treat other individuals. It's not even about how they treat you. Don't get me wrong. How they treat you is a higher priority, of course. But we cannot ignore how they treat other people, because if they treat other people poorly, then chances are that is at some point going to seep into your relationship with them. Again, most people have not mastered this. I can treat everyone else like crap, but treat you amazingly, consistently. All right. Initially, yes, I think it's possible. They may be able to go through an extended period of time where they keep you in this protective bubble and do everything great for you, but they're not that great with other individuals. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely. But again, even if they can sustain it initially, it will at some point break through the bubble. At some point, because it's a part of their character. And it's a character flaw that has to be addressed. And so they can't hide their true character from you forever. Yes, they can bring you their best representative, but people cannot hold that up for too long. So you have to pay attention yourself to how they're treating other individuals. And really understand, okay, what's going on here? Why are you like this? Why do you view this as acceptable behavior? And express your concern with it. Again, you're addressing the issue. We're not just going to cut them off, because especially the fact that they're willing to show you that they're going to put their best foot forward with you, then I do believe that they deserve the opportunity to correct the outside issue of how they treat others and get to the bottom root of that problem. But if they're unwilling to correct it, if they're going to make excuses for it, whatever the case may be, then again, you cannot ignore it under the idea of, will they treat me well? That's a problem. Because if they're really a good person at their core, then why they can't be good to other individuals? Why aren't they good to people in general? Again, we will all have our moments, but if they're consistently mistreating others, consistently disrespectful to others, or even if they treat people that they view as a lower status than them, they treat them in a very poor manner, that's a problem. And that needs to be corrected. So again, how they treat other people is definitely a red flag that you should not ignore and that needs to be addressed. And as I'm going with this list, if anything comes to mind, comment below. Let me know what are some red flags you think should be addressed. But this seventh one might surprise you. I don't know if anyone has talked about this, but it hit my spirit and I felt like I had to add it to the list. And number 7 is, they have never been alone. So hear me out, because again, some of y'all might be triggered because it's you I'm talking about. You have to remember, I'm a coach. I have sat down and talked to tons of people. I've seen thousands of scenarios. I know how this whole thing goes. And I can tell you with pure confidence that one of the issues I have found to be consistent is individuals who don't know how to be alone. Now, one, getting themselves in the wrong relationship, and I'll explain how that's a problem for you, all right? As well as not learning and healing so they can be better in their next relationship. So first, let's dissect the first part. They end up in the wrong relationship because, again, what happens is people who keep jumping from relationship to relationship and don't know how to be alone, they're trying to latch on to whatever they can, all right? And so they're not focused on, do we have a connection here? They're not focused on this really being where I belong. They're not focused on there being true alignment in this situation. They're just looking for the resume to be good enough, and they will latch on to you. Now, if you're that person they're latching on to, you have to understand that it's problematic because they're not with you because they love you. They're with you because they need somebody in their life. They don't want to be by themselves. And so they will brush under the rug all the red flags themselves. And you, if you're not moving forward with your eyes open, if you're not being aware, if you're not in tune, especially spiritually, then you are very likely to overlook it, because this individual will they will put their best foot forward in the sense of they're going to try to love you and do for you because, again, they need someone in their life. But when you really take a step back and look, you start to see that at their core of who they are, the connection is not really there. but they're holding on because they don't want to be by themselves. And you got to understand that there's a deeper reason why you're even allowing them to remain in your life as long as they did. But I digress. Let's move to the next point of this. What I said was that when they keep jumping from relationship to relationship, they don't take time to learn how they can be better in their next relationship. Because again, people who don't like being alone and people who jump to the next relationship very quickly, they don't take time to heal and evaluate. All right? They're simply looking for the next warm body to have in their life. And this is a problem because they don't have any growth that occurs. So like I'll speak to clients and I'm like, hey, you need time by yourself. Because one, you need to detox from all these previous relationships, and you also need time to reflect and learn what you need to be doing better. Because you are now proceeding in life blinded by your fear of being alone, blinded by your lack of healing, blinded by the fact that you don't even know who you are. Because again, you're so used to having someone there. You never took time to learn yourself. You never took time to truly love yourself. Now, again, I know I'm supposed to be talking to the people dealing with this individual, but I feel like I'm talking directly right now to the person who this applies to. You got to really ask yourself, do I know how to be alone? It doesn't mean you have to be happy to be single, but you do have to learn how to be happy while you're single. You do have to learn how to not be so dependent on having someone there that you will now accept the devil into your life just to have a person in your life. That's a problem. And this happens to so many people. So again, when someone, going back to flipping it, when you're looking for the dating red flag, when you're dealing with someone who has never been alone, who's always in these relationships, you want to explore that deeper. And again, I never want you to make assumptions because though this is typically going to apply to those individuals as far as the lack of healing, the lack of evaluation, them not even truly being in love at that moment, they're just latching on, you want to be fair in allowing them to show you, does this apply to them specifically as well? And what have they done to counter those issues? Have they somewhere done a process of evaluation, maybe while they were even in a relationship that has shown growth? How have they progressed in life from those previous relationships to now? Are we seeing that evolution in who they are, or are they still the same person? All right. Have they truly healed and released that baggage? Have they forgiven? Can they talk about their past relationships without it being all negative and hurtful? You want to address all these things. Now, if all those issues are covered and we're good, all right, cool. We won't hold that against them any kind of way. But again, if we dive deeper and we realize all of this does apply, then you got to take a step back. It's not time to be in that relationship. And let me just throw this out there real quick, and I'll do a whole other video about this because this is a deep topic. Sometimes it's the right person, wrong time. I know some of y'all don't believe in that, but it's real. It's real. Sometimes you will meet the person who there may even be a deep connection with, but they are not ready because they have some issues they have to address. They have not healed. There could be a variety of things going on, as well as you're not as ready as you think you are. All right? And so we have to understand that, yes, again, red flags don't always mean wrong person. It may mean wrong person or it may mean wrong time. Either way, it has to be addressed and corrected before we can move forward so that we can have a healthy and successful relationship. So here's a cold, hard truth. There are a lot of men out there using women. There are a lot of you who have been used by a man. And again, let's make clear that's not all men. All right. There's plenty of good, serious, well-intentioned men out there. However, there are men who are looking to take advantage and get what they can out of a woman. And I want you to always be aware of what you need to look at because I've seen so many women get caught up in these situations. And though I firmly believe it's not that the woman doesn't see the red flags, but she struggles with embracing it or acknowledging it fully for what it is because her desire to hold on to this man and make this relationship work kind of causes her to rationalize past her intuition. Now, notice I said her desire to hold on to this man. Here's a quick thing I want to mention before we get into these signs. And I say this with love. Sometimes you're using him too. All right. And what I mean by that is this. There are a lot of you who may have dated a man who you weren't really into. You may have been open to the possibility that things could eventually change, but as you stand, you knew you weren't feeling them like that. However, you may have wanted companionship. You may have wanted someone that helps you with your bills. You may have wanted sexual engagement, whatever the case may be. I'm not judging you, the men right now, nobody. I'm just explaining what it is. And so what I want to say is this. I'm not here to say that anyone should be taking that approach, but we can acknowledge or recognize that this happens. And if two adults, men and women, have decided that they want to deal with each other in honesty and transparency, and they're saying, listen, we may not see a future together, we're not serious about each other, but we enjoy each other's company, and this is what we want out of this situation, and y'all come to that agreement, that's what two adults do. That's your choice, all right? But know what you're signing up for. Be honest about why you're still there. And with that said, understand that not all quote unquote using is done with this malicious intent to hurt the other. I know that sounds like I'm trying to give like sympathy to the user, but I'm not. I just want everyone to understand that as human beings, it is very easy to get caught up in a situation and want to hold on to the certain benefits we are receiving from this person, even though we may not be fully confident that we want to be with this person or this is the person we can share our life with. All right. And it happens on both sides. And so if it has happened to you, do not internalize it in a way that you now dwell in it, but learn how to recognize these issues so that you don't get caught up and you can pull yourself out when you know this isn't best for you or this is not what you want in your life. So with that disclaimer now given, all right, let's move on to some of these signs of things that the man will do when he's using you. And the first one is he only treats you nice when he wants something. So this was very important for me to have on this list. Because let me break it down like this. I've had so many sessions with women and with men, but let's talk about women right now, who are struggling to let go of a relationship. And one of the many reasons why they struggle to let go, even though they're not happy and they may know deep inside this is not the man for them, is they point to, well, we have good times. Well, we have good moments. Okay. And one thing about human nature is when we really like someone, we have a tendency to want to hold on to any ammunition we can or validation to feed our desire of remaining here. Plain and simple. We're looking for an excuse. Okay. And so what happens is the woman starts to overlook the fact that, yeah, you have good moments, but the consistency in the relationship is negative. All right. He's consistently bad and sometimes good. If anything, it should be flipped. He should be consistently good, but as human beings, we will have our moments of struggle. We will have our moments where we make mistakes. That's normal. And we should be willing to try to work through that when we understand this individual is consistently good. But let's get back to them being consistently bad. So he's consistently bad, and you think just because he did something nice today, that means something. But let's go deeper. When he does even that nice thing, is it followed up by what he's trying to get out of you? So it's like, oh yeah, today he called you. He said all these beautiful things to you. Maybe he took you out. And then the next day it's like, can I borrow your car? Can you lend me some money? I need this favor. It's like, what's really his motivation? His motivation is manipulation. It's not love. It is not a desire to pour into you. It's a desire to get from you and using these nice gestures to butter you up and soften you up so that he can get what he desires. So you've got to be mindful and aware of, is this man only doing good when he wants something? But again, regardless, the main issue is he's consistently bad and sometimes good. Listen, even some of the worst people can give you some good moments. All right.
it doesn't change the fact that they're a bad person. It doesn't change the fact, or they're bad for you, all right? Or this is an unhealthy, toxic relationship. You've got to not get lost in the happiness of that moment. And here's the other thing that happens. Because you're so starved and you're thirsting for that, to feel love and to feel intimacy with him and all these things, when he finally gives you that moment, it feels so damn good. It's like, you know, when you're real hungry and almost anything you eat tastes extra good today. It's like, is this really this good, or am I just this hungry? Okay. So many times in a relationship, what he even did wasn't that great. You were just that hungry. You just been that neglected. You've been starving for this attention so bad, whether it be from him or just a man in general. So you look at this little small thing as bigger than what it actually is. Now, I have to say, I feel the need to mention, when you're with a man who is consistent, I want you to appreciate all the small things, the big things, all of it. Because again, he's consistent. I just don't want you turning a blind eye to the man who is consistently bad, who throws in some good here and there. So anyways, the bottom line point is, the man who is trying to use you is using those good moments to manipulate you. He is going to tend to be consistently bad. He is, and he's only going to do what he's comfortable with. All right. And what he thinks, is good enough to get the result he's looking for, but he will not go above and beyond that. All right. But we're going to get more into that as the video goes along. All right. So let's move things along. The second sign, the second thing a man will do when he's using you, is that he will constantly prioritize other people over you. So I made a point to say people and not things, only because I want to leave room for the fact that I am a believer and supporter of the idea that a man does not or should not prioritize a woman over his purpose. And from my perspective, purpose goes hand in hand with God, because that purpose came from God. So essentially, he does not prioritize that woman over God. This doesn't mean he neglects the woman, he dismisses her, doesn't mean he treats her badly. But we have to understand that purpose comes first, all right? And I think that's a good thing, that when you're with the right man, it serves the relationship in a positive way. So outside of that, all right, and also let me take it to a lesser level, because you have men who may prioritize work and what they're striving to achieve over you. And not to say that that is a healthy approach, depending on how they're going about it, because there has to be a level of balance that's found. Balance in the sense of giving you quality time enough to make sure that you feel good and are happy in the relationship, but also giving his dreams, his goals, enough energy as well. However, I don't want you to assume that just because a man prioritizes his work so highly and his dreams so highly, that it automatically means he's using you. Okay? So that's why I want to throw that in there. So now let me also say this. It does not mean that some men will use work and I got things I got going on as an excuse to neglect you. But notice that that man is using it to neglect your needs, versus what I'm saying is the other guy may prioritize his job, but he's still trying to make sure you're good. All right. Two different things. But move on to, he consistently prioritizes other people over you. So here's the thing. When a man is not serious about a woman, well, he's not trying to put her needs and desires over maybe even his homeboys. He's not going to prioritize her in regards to family. Hell, I've seen tons of situations where the man is giving more priority to his female friends, quote unquote. I don't know whether there's other stuff going on. Sometimes it's generally not stuff happening at that moment, but regardless, we can argue whether there's something brewing there. But the point is, I've seen situations where, yes, they have prioritized not just a female friend, but the female friends in general over the woman. When this is occurring, then yes, there is at least great reason to believe this man is just trying to use this woman. Now, I forgot to mention earlier, when we say use, what I want you to understand is this. I'm speaking of using from the perspective of, I want to gain these benefits from this woman, but I don't have serious intentions for her. Okay? And that's why I said earlier, if two people have that mindset, but they're being honest and they both agree to it, that's something different. But this is happening under the guise of he's not being transparent. You may be getting mixed signals, whatever the case may be, but he's trying to hold on to you because there's certain benefits, but he is not trying to be serious with you. This is what we're qualifying as using. So going back to prioritizing the friends and other people, yes, when he does not have that serious interest in the woman and he's just trying to get what he can get from her right now, well then yeah, the other people who've been in his life remain at the top of his list because he sees them in a more permanent way. He's not viewing you as permanent. He's viewing this as a temporary for as long as I can drag this out for, and that sounds horrible, but it's what happens, all right? But I know at some point this woman's probably going to be gone. All right. If I'm not consciously saying that to myself, subconsciously, the man understands that. So because of that, yes, he does not view the need to put her higher on the list of priorities. But here's another aspect of it to consider. One of the other reasons why a man may not prioritize you over other people, friends, family, whatever, other women, is because he may be playing the game of, I'm trying to keep you close enough to gain benefit from you, but I don't want you to feel too special or too high up on my list of priorities to where now you think I do want something more with you. And I know it sounds crazy. And again, it sounds crazy, but it's what's happening in many situations. Not all, I have to stress that, but it happens. It's happened to a lot of people. It's this game of, I want to give you hope that there's something here because that's what keeps you holding on. But I don't want to give you too much hope to where now you really think this is going to happen, or you're so confident to where now it puts him in a more difficult position, or you may start requiring more out of him than he's willing to give. At the end of the day, it's all jacked up. It's all messed up. But the point is, you want to pay attention to that because typically when a man is very serious about a woman, she becomes high on his list of priorities. Plain and simple. At least when we're talking about compared to other friends and families. We've seen guys who now they're, if anything, you can say neglecting their homeboys because they want to be with their girl. Okay. Now they're cutting off certain friends or not engaging as much with those female friends. They might be cool with them, but it's like, no, I got a girlfriend now and I want to be with her. This is what naturally happens when the man is more invested and serious. But when he's using you, it's the opposite. All right, so we got another one, of course. Let's keep this moving. And the next one on the list of signs or things a man will do if he's using you is he never or rarely pays. Now, I'm always bringing up the money issue because I think it's so prevalent. I think it's a real thing that you have to be mindful of. And I don't get tired of breaking this down, all right? And I've seen it plenty times where you have men dating women and willingly and intentionally placing higher financial burden on her. All right. So that's why I said either never pays or rarely pays. All right. The reason why this is such a sign of using you is because, again, when a man is really into a woman, There's a natural inclination to want to impress. There's a natural inclination to want to provide. And men know, like you see it on the internet all the time, men even complaining about how important money is to women. So despite how much they complain, the fact remains that when they come across a woman that they're really into, they're going to be more cautious at the very least of playing the game of making you pay or showing themselves not able to at least be stable financially in trying to get you, because they know how much that can work against them. All right. So even the broke dude will try to act like he's not broke. Okay. So for the man to not even care, he's not even trying. He's just saying, nah, you got it. You take care of it. You're good. Now, this is very different than you. I'm going to use the word overstepping. All right. And initiating, well, I'll take care of it. No, I got it. I got it. That's on you. I'm not saying it's okay for him to sit back and just let you continuously do it, but I also can't call him out to just flat out be a user or a bad person, because yes, some people, if he is financially struggling and he wanted to try to make it work, but then you jump in and you're like, nah, I got it. It's very easy for some people to get comfortable with that and start just accepting it. All right. Especially when you're insisting. The unfortunate problem is not only do they get comfortable in those moments, but then it starts to become the natural dynamic of the relationship, where now the assumption is you will get it. So please understand, if you do not want to be in that situation where it's always on you, be careful with how much you overextend yourself to provide for him financially. You still have to hold him at least to the standard of being able to take care of himself. All right. It's one thing for a woman to say, well, I don't mind at least taking care of my half. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm saying if that's how you want to live your life, all right, so be it, right? But when it starts to become you are taking care of him, I think that's a huge problem. In most cases, there's exceptions to every rule, but in most cases, that's a huge problem. But going back to him never or rarely paying, yeah, you got to understand the mindset of the man who does that and what message that is typically conveying, okay? And it usually means he's just using you and he's going to get what he can. And if you're going to keep giving, he's going to keep taking. So be very mindful and aware of that. Now, before I go on to the next point, let me add a little bit more to this whole money issue, because my videographer mentioned to me how he's experienced in his life where, you know, a woman may start to become uncomfortable with the man paying all the time. So now she wants to, again, overextend herself. And I think, again, as a woman, you have to ask yourself, why am I making such an effort to pay now? Because for a lot of men, they don't mind paying. What they don't want is you taking advantage of their willingness to pay. What they don't want is you running them dry. What they don't want is you being inconsiderate of their financial situation. Outside of that, if they care about you, they don't mind providing and taking care of stuff. So when you interject and now you want to be the payer, what is driving you right now? Is it, oh, well, I don't want to come off as weak? Is it, well, I was taught not to rely on a man? Is it that I don't want him to think he has any kind of power over me? Understand that though it's reasonable or understandable why many of you have those types of mindsets, they they are unhealthy. Because they're usually coming from a very negative source. Like when women who have been taught don't rely upon a man, it is based off the idea that the man will use you, abuse you, do all these negative things. It is not based off the idea of he wants to just love you. And you know, or just being wise about, you know, it doesn't mean you don't need to protect yourself by creating some kind of financial stability for yourself, depending on the woman and what life you want to live. And there's multiple ways of doing that, even with a man who pays, that doesn't require you to overextend yourself. But again, you just have to understand, is fear motivating you or is love motivating you? Because I feel the need to say this. What a lot of men who are willing to pay, I'll say this. This may sound bad, but I'm just going to say it. What he would love more than you offering to pay that check is to give him some, you know what, right? Okay. And to do it the ways that he likes. That would make him way happier than you paying the check. Now, caveat, that's if you guys are already engaging in that way. I'm not telling y'all to go out there and use that as payment or anything. I'm just saying, if you're trying to show appreciation and show him that you care about him, well, the way he receives that is you pouring into the needs and desires that he has, not you trying to match things like paying for stuff. If he's a man who's okay with it, especially a man who's in a position where he can easily handle it. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's nice that you want to pay, but if you're doing that and you're still not pouring into the other needs, it's not gonna mean as much as you think it will. All right, but again, I want to repeat, I'm not saying use sexual favors as like equal payment. I'm just saying that will put a bigger smile on his face. But anyways, I digress. Let's keep moving to the next point. All right, so before we get to the next one, quick mention, and this is a perfect segue into our next point, but get your copy of He's Lying, Sis. Plain and simple. Best-selling book. Women are loving it everywhere. Gaining so much clarity from it. Trust me, you're going to enjoy it. And it's not just some book bashing men. It is giving you more insight and understanding so you can avoid the nonsense and you can create healthier and happier relationships. So go to he'slyingsis.com or click the link in the description or in the comment section. Get your copy today. You're going to love it. So now with that said, the next thing a man will do if he's using you, and this is a chapter in the He's Lying Sis book, is he will act like your boyfriend, but he doesn't want to make you his girlfriend. He will act like your boyfriend, but doesn't want to make you his girlfriend. So here's the thing. It's a very common occurrence that confuses a lot of women, where you have men who are saying, I don't want a relationship. I don't want anything serious. Yet their behavior comes across like a man who cares and is like a boyfriend. It's like he's in a relationship with you. All right. And it's so confusing because, you know, in this world, we're always told actions speak louder than words. And in this case, his actions are saying, I want to be with you or I'm with you. But his words are saying, nah. And so that creates so much conflict within the woman. But this is why I tell y'all, actions and words have to line up together. They have to be consistent with each other. That is the true epitome of truth. That's what's going to give you the ultimate clarity. So really, we don't need to be just relying on one. They should both be there. With that said, you have these situations where women find that confusing, but they don't, you may not understand that even though he does not want serious commitment with you, he still enjoys the intimacy. He still enjoys the boyfriend-girlfriend dynamic. Now, you may say, well, if he enjoys that, why not just be boyfriend-girlfriend, right? Well, here's the key. Being boyfriend and girlfriend means being committed to you. Being boyfriend and girlfriend means being obligated to you. All right. Being boyfriend and girlfriend means being held to a higher standard in how he shows up for you. But being the man who just plays this role without official commitment, it gives him freedom to do as he pleases. So if today he wants to act like a boyfriend, but tomorrow he's gone and doing his own thing somewhere else, he gets to say, if you take issue, I'm not your man. You see? So it's this, I don't want to say game, but you can call it that for some. It's this game that some men will play where, again, it goes back to wanting to enjoy the benefits of you and wanting to enjoy that level of intimacy, right? but not wanting the commitment, the obligation, and the requirements that come with it. So you have to be careful with letting just those actions confuse you. This is where, one thing for sure, a man who is trying to be with you seriously is not going to come out his mouth and say, I don't want a relationship. He's not going to come out his mouth and say, I don't know if I want, anything serious in my life. He's less likely to say things like, let's go with the flow. I'm going to say less likely because I do think there's some people out there who default to that because they're trying to figure things out and they may be open to something serious. But I'm not a fan of the whole let's go with the flow statement. But bottom line is, a man who's trying to take it to the next level with you doesn't risk losing you by saying those things. So when a man says stuff like that, he's willing to risk this because, again, he's not really seriously invested. He just would like to enjoy you for as long as he possibly can. And sometimes it's kind of this mentality of, well, I don't have anyone else right now, so let me keep her around, while I'm still looking for someone else. And again, I know that sounds really messed up, but this is what happens. This is what happens. And I feel the need to say, before you look at men as just the devil, there's women who do this too, all right? And it's not to excuse either side. It's just to say, listen, people are doing stuff like this. That's the reality. And that's why it's up to you, because we can sit here and say, well, people shouldn't be like that and you should tell these men don't do this. Listen, it doesn't matter how many men I say this is not the way to go about things. There are going to be men out there who will do these things. And the best way for you as a woman to protect yourself from falling into this is to become aware of what to look for, getting in tune with your intuition, being honest with yourself, loving yourself, being healed. These things will help guard you from the nonsense, because waiting for other people to do right by you could put you in a position that you're waiting forever. All right? And will lead you to more and worse things. So embrace the power you have to avoid situations like this. All right, so here's one more. And lately I've been having a longer list that I can't get all the way through. All right, so I'm gonna probably have to do a part 2 to this at some point. But this one I had to mention before we end this video, okay? And just stay with me here. Another thing that a man who's using you will do is take no interest in your sexual satisfaction. Now, let's talk about this. One, of course, this is assuming you have crossed this line or plan to cross this line with this man. As always, I am not telling you that you should be crossing that line, all right? I'm just acknowledging that many adults will have, all right? And we got to have discussions about this dynamic. So with that said, let me throw out there real quick that I do think there's a very huge disconnect between men and women and the understanding of how to truly please each other sexually and how they need to pour into each other. All right. So I am not speaking to the ignorance of the man. I'm not speaking to him lacking an understanding of what you specifically need. I'm speaking about the man who doesn't give a damn what it is. You could give him the blueprint and he would not care. If anything, he will come with every excuse in the book. Why? Well, you don't need that, or I'm not doing this. And he is much more of a selfish lover. Now, here's something I can say confidently. When a man is really into you, when he's serious about a relationship with you, he at least has some level of consideration for wanting you to be satisfied in the bedroom. Now, here's something else I have to throw out there. Sometimes the lack of him taking more initiative and making sure you're satisfied is due to you lying to him about being satisfied. So be very careful, because if you engage with him sexually and you lead him to believe, as I like to say, he's king ding-a-ling in the bedroom when it's not really going down like that, you are setting you both up for failure, because you have men who think, oh yeah, she's good. She's happy. And if he thinks you're good and you're satisfied, he doesn't see the need to go any further in trying to understand what more he could do for you. He thinks he's already on top of his game. And yes, sometimes some of you have led that man to believe that. So you've got to be open and transparent. Now, I understand it's very difficult to criticize a man sexually. I do think that if we want healthier and happier relationships, especially marriages, we've got to learn how to establish the ability to constructively criticize each other as early as possible in a relationship. We've got to get comfortable with telling each other, hey, let's do this better. Let's do more of this. Of course, criticizing in a more positive tone, not just lashing out. This is bad. This is sucks. I don't know, whatever. But just really with the desire to make things better for each other. Okay. But regardless, you've got to be willing to be open about that. And here's the thing. It's you being open about that. And of course, expressing yourself in a positive, loving manner that will at least give you some insight to how considerate he is of how you're feeling. All right. So it's almost like, and I don't know why this is coming to mind, but let's just say you're sexually engaging with a man who gets way too rough for your liking. Okay. If you just try to suck it up, no pun intended. If you just try to suck it up and act like it's all good because you feel like, well, he likes it, so I don't want to like throw anything off for him. And I understand you're just like, I want to give you some points for trying to like, again, work with him. But at the same time, this is your chance to say, hey, you know, I don't like it that rough. Let's soften it up. And at that point, if he shows no willingness to change his style to accommodate your concerns, then there's nothing for me to believe. Either this man is using you and all he views you as is a sexual outlet and a person he gains whatever benefits from, or he is not mature enough and healthy enough to be in a relationship right now. So even if we want to take the idea that he's using you off the table, all right, because there may be stories, I've seen some stories of people who will say that this man loved this woman, but he doesn't get it when it comes to the bedroom and what she needs. And because he doesn't understand why this would be important to her, he doesn't embrace it. But I still think in most cases, his flat out dismissal of your feelings, whether it be sex or other things, is a sign that he's not serious, and therefore he's just trying to get what he can get out of you. All right. Because it boils down to basically, you know, when a man is using you, he's doing the least to get the most. All right. He wants to put the least amount of effort he has to put for himself, or that he's comfortable with putting, but he will require much out of you. So he wants you to be in tune and respecting his sexual desires and feelings, but he doesn't do the same for you. That says that there's a problem there. That says using. That says not serious. That says this is not a man you should be dealing with. So yes, if you're crossing those lines, be mindful of it. Be more open. Be more transparent. All right, because we have to cultivate a healthy relationship in all the aspects that go into the relationship to make sure this is going to be good in the long run.
Listen, men don't cheat. All right, now that I got your attention, let me explain. All right, not all men cheat. All right, yes, there are some men that unfortunately engage in this behavior all the time. All right, it's a life for them. It's what they believe is acceptable in relationships. But I want you ladies to understand that not every man walks that path. Not every man is trying to cheat. Not every man believes that cheating is okay. But you need to start to understand what types of men will more than likely cheat on you. All right. So I'm going to lay out what you need to be looking for. And let me say this. This doesn't It's not a 100%. Nothing is 100%, right? But these are at least red flags that I do believe increase the chances of it happening, and you probably are best suited to address, or it is best for you to address them if you want to make sure it doesn't go down the path of infidelity, all right? So let's get right to it. Number one. Oh, and before I say number one, let me just say, number 7 on this list is a big one, huge. So I need you to watch all the way to number 7 and click that subscribe button real quick, just so you can always watch my future videos. All right, now, number 1 on this list is a man without purpose. Now, you probably weren't expecting that one, but let me explain. Let me first start off with a quick story, all right? I had a client one time that I was coaching. She was overseas, international client, and she was having infidelity issues with her partner. She had just had a baby several months ago, and she was trying to figure out what she should do. And at first it was one-on-one, and so we talked about things, but then eventually he ended up coming into the sessions, all right? And he was willing to sit down with me and be very forthcoming. So we talked about it. He acknowledged that he had cheated. And we try to figure out, okay, what's the issue here? Is it something lacking at home? Is there something you wish were different? What is it? Do you just have a strong appetite for women? And he was like, nah. And at first he couldn't explain. He's like, I don't know. I just kind of did. I kind of just fell off the wrong track. And I said, okay, no, something's not right here. So we dug deeper. And I noticed that I'm not going to say what profession he was in, but the profession he was in, I could tell he was not really happy there. I could tell that he was doing it because it was just the thing to do, all right, to make a living, but it did not fulfill him, all right? And so to get to the point of this story, what we found was the fact that he did not have purpose in his life. And please understand, success does not equal purpose. So don't confuse men doing well for themselves as having purpose, all right? So even though he was doing okay, there was no purpose in what he was doing. So there was still a void. And what was happening was he was trying to fill that void the easiest way he could, flirting with women. Because flirting with women made him feel good, made him feel better about himself, all right? Though his initial intention was not to go out and cheat. Believe it or not, for some of you, because I know some of you may question that. He was not going out with the intention to cheat. He was going out to receive validation, all right? But then what happens, unfortunately, is you start getting fed that validation, and that flirting starts to get a little deeper. Now they start to push the envelope a little bit more, and then before you know it, now it's getting into a sexual thing, or becomes a sexual thing, all right? So for him, and what I have noticed for a lot of men, is that the lack of purpose, not that it 100% means he will cheat, nor does a man having purpose mean 100% he will never cheat. But I will say that when a man has purpose in his life, he has more to lose. And because he has more to lose, he is less willing to play with fire. He is less willing to cross certain lines, all right? It can still happen to the best of people. Because I know some of y'all think cheating is just who the person is. No, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as I go along in this video. But the point is, even the best of men who have purpose, it can happen, but it decreases the chances. And the same way, but when he does not have purpose, it increases the chances because there's typically going to be a void. And women are the easiest way to fill the void, all right? If you're capable of getting women. So that's why this is kind of a red flag to be mindful of, and to understand why it's so important for people to find fulfillment in their life, for people to eliminate these voids, whether it's through purpose as well as through healing. Because a lack of healing can also create voids, can also create that need for validation from others, which again can start off as just wanting validation and flirting and attention and turn into having sex and cheating and all these different things. So it's definitely something to be aware of. So a man without purpose is the type of man who is the chances of cheating gets a little bit higher, say it like that, all right? Second on this list is a man who lacks discipline. All right. So when you're dating a man, when you're getting to know him, you want to pay attention to has he established any kind of discipline in his life. Now, I would argue that no one is perfect discipline-wise from top to bottom in every way, shape, or form. But what I have seen be consistent is that those who don't know how to draw a line in their life in different ways tend to cross that line in many ways. All right. So for example, if this man does not know how to have a limit to his drinking, that's a flag. If he's not disciplined in drink, it's not even the fact that he has drinks. He can have a drink. But if he has no discipline in even his drinking, all right, not only does it show, again, a struggle to draw a line, but also getting drunk can lead to behaving badly anyway. So that's a double negative, so to speak, all right? If hell, the way that he eats and takes care of himself, if there's no line that he draws, again, it shows a struggle to understand when enough is enough. Now, as I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again, does this automatically mean this guy would cheat? No, because he might lack so much discipline, he's too damn lazy to cheat. He's like, I don't feel like getting up and doing all that or hiding texts and all this stuff. He ain't disciplined enough to cheat right, so he ain't going to cheat. And there's no such thing as cheating right. Forgive me for saying cheat right. I'm sorry. He doesn't have the energy to cheat efficiently, okay? So he's not even going to bother with it, all right? But I do think it's something to be addressed and looked into, especially when that lack of discipline crosses the line or seeps into drinking and substance abuse and things of that nature. Because that, again, that's just probably going to lead to a lot of bad behavior overall. And you've got to be careful with that. And it's something that needs to be addressed and corrected beforehand. Now let's get to number three. And number three, the third type of man who will cheat on you is a man who says all men will cheat. All right. Now I'm a huge believer in this, and there might be dudes out there pissed at me for saying it, but I don't care. I'm just gonna be real. Like the minute a man says all men cheat, again, it is an increased likelihood that he is going to one day cross that line. Because understand the mentality. If he says all men include him. Like he's not saying all men but me. And who the hell thinks everybody else does it but them? No, he's saying all because he's essentially setting the stage for you to understand that this is a part of life, that this happens, and so that you should learn how to accept it and adjust to it rather than fight it. Because to him, it is a reality you're gonna have to face, all right? There are plenty of men, now, and listen, it doesn't mean, I always have to give you the other side. It doesn't mean the man who says all men don't cheat won't cheat on you. Okay, I think we understand that. Some men can still, not say all men cheat, and they're still gonna do it themselves. But if he does say it, I don't know how I could defend that statement. I don't know how I could sit here and say a man says that, but he ain't gonna cheat on you. He's not even considering it. You know what I'm saying? I think everyone is capable. I think it's possible, right buttons pushed, right circumstances. But I think that when you have the mindset of all people do something, then you're essentially saying you're going to do it too. It's the same way when people say, well, everyone has issues. There ain't a damn person that says everyone who has issues and they don't have issues. Like they're essentially saying to you, everyone has it, including me. And you should accept that reality and learn to deal with it rather than expect me to do anything about it. That's what that statement says. And that's the same thing that all men cheat says to you. So if he says that, yeah, he's probably gonna do it. Okay. All right, so now let's get to number 4. And number 4 is a two-parter that I want to throw at you. But before I give it to you, real quick, get your copy of He's Lying, Sis. All right, best-selling book. It's not about bashing men. It's about breaking down scenarios that women deal with, that there are a lot of deceit, or there is a lot of deceit and deception going on, and to help you how better navigate it. For some of you, it may be brand new information. It may be a huge eye opener, or it may be a reminder of what you already know, or that push you needed, that confirmation you needed of what you already knew deep inside was going on in the situation that you've been facing. All right, so click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to www.he'slyingsis.com. So now let's get to number 4. And like I said, it's a two-parter. Number 4 is he does not set boundaries with other women. And more specifically, he's unwilling to set boundaries with other women. And the reason why I had to throw in the unwilling is because I'm going to give a little room to the guy who may not fully understand what proper boundaries are with female friends. And I don't mean like female friends that he may have slept with before or their exes. I do think that there are some men out there who have women that are friends who the man genuinely thinks it's friendship, but does not realize this woman is hoping for a shot at some point. All right. And some of y'all women listen to this, you know what I'm talking about. That's why you don't like that man's female friends, because you know she's shady. You know she's waiting for an opportunity. You don't like her lingering around, and Lord knows what she's going to put in this man's head, right? But to his defense, I'm not saying he should allow that to happen. I'm not saying that's acceptable. He needs to learn how to set the boundaries. But the fact that he has not initially may actually be ignorance. All right. Maybe, and I don't say ignorance in a disrespectful way. That doesn't mean he does not know any better. He does not understand the whole dynamic, right? But if he cares about you and he's serious about you and you address it with him, I do believe that he'll be willing. All right. It may be a struggle, but I do believe he'll be willing. But you got to come at him the right way. You can't just be attacking him or accusing him. Because if you're like, oh, well, y'all doing something, he's like, no, you're crazy. You're tripping. He's going to be less receptive to what you have to say. But that's why I used or threw in there, he is unwilling to set the boundaries. Because now it is one thing for him to simply be unaware and not understand. It's another thing for you to express to him in a loving, calm manner your concern, and he's simply dismissing it and shooting it down. Now, again, does this mean he has an intention to go out and cheat? No. But what he may not realize, or he may realize, is that his unwillingness to do so creates an open door. All right. And if he does not watch it, and I do believe this, let me say this, because I do think that women always feel like men who cheat are just cheaters, that they know what they're doing, they're going after it. And I'm not saying they don't know what they're doing, but what I'm trying to get at is not every man came into the situation with the intention to cheat. Some men really don't understand how if you allow this door to open, it can lead down this path. And it can lead to things happening in a way that you weren't planning to or expecting to. That might be hard for some of y'all to grasp, but that is a reality for some individuals, all right? And yes, people get caught up in the moment. So yes, in the moment, they still made a decision to go through with it. But I know some of you have been in a moment before where you got caught up in it and you make a bad decision. It can happen to people. But to get back to the main point, his unwillingness to set proper boundaries creates open doors. All right. It's either going to create open door or it's a reflection of he just has plans to do some stuff. Like at the end of the day, some dudes ain't trying to set boundaries with any of their female friends because they're not actually female friends. Their booty partner. Booty partner is such a horrible phrase to use. They are they are sex partners. They are whatever F buddies, whatever you want to call it, right? So either way, it's a bad sign, and in either way, it needs to be addressed. But remember, I said this is a two-parter. So the second part to this is he allows women to disrespect you. So it's one thing to not know how to set boundaries or to be unwilling to set boundaries, all right? And those boundaries can vary from couple to couple as far as what you determine acceptable and unacceptable behavior or where you feel like the line should be drawn. And that's something that a couple has to discuss because it's not going to be the same for everybody. But now when we get to disrespect, and he allows these women to disrespect you as his woman, that's a horrible sign. All right. And again, Does it always mean it's an automatic he's cheating? No, but that's a hell of a door to have open. And allowing other women to disrespect your girl, that only brings into question, how much do you value your partner? How much do you respect your partner? And if you don't respect her enough or value her enough to defend her and to protect her from attacks from other women, then what is to lead me or anyone to believe that you wouldn't cheat? You know what I'm saying? Like that to me just kind of is going to lead into that at some point, because there's no regard for respect of your partner, and cheating, you know, at some point can boil down to that. So I think when he's doing that, and some of y'all may say, well, what woman's going to allow that? Listen, there's a lot of relationships right now where women are dealing with men, and I hate to use the word accepting, but allowing or continuing to deal with this man despite the disrespect that she receives from him and from other women in his life. All right. And let me say this, because when I said other women in his life, something kind of hit me. Because there's disrespect from other quote unquote female friends, acquaintances, whatever. But there's also disrespect from female family members. Now, the disrespect from female family members may be less of an indicator of cheating being on the horizon, but it's still a huge problem. And it still brings up the question of, well, how much do you really respect and value your partner if you allow any other woman, family and friends included, to disrespect her? That's a huge, huge problem. So it's definitely a red flag, definitely needs to be addressed. And if not corrected, cheating or not, he needs to be let go. Like if he's doing all that, done. That's it. All right. If he can't fix it, done. No point in continuing. So now we are at number 5, and I predict there are going to be some men who hate me for this one. Right? Number 5 on this list is a man who thinks it's okay to be sliding in the DMs. All right. Now let me give a little background here. Again, let me reiterate. These actions do not automatically mean the man will cheat. But they do present a problem. They do present an open door. And a lot of men, especially if he's a man, like if he's a man who lacks discipline and he's sliding in DMs, then what's to believe he will be disciplined enough to not go any further than the DMs? But even if he goes no further than the DMs, I think it's fair to say sliding in DMs is unhealthy, inappropriate behavior. All right. Unless you're sliding in for business. All right. I just have to throw it out there. This is for business. That's different. But if it's not legitimate business, we got a problem here. But let's start here. Some of y'all may say, well, it's a problem if he even likes a woman's pictures. And that is your choice if that is an issue for you. And that's something that you have to discuss with your partner. The only reason why I'm not going to mention liking a woman's pictures as a type of man who would cheat on you is because, and maybe my perception is a little skewed, I feel like depending on the woman, she may never even see that like. Like the like is a very informal thing today. Unless she has such low amount of followers that she can actually even keep up, there's a very good chance she's not catching it, okay? And a like doesn't necessarily lead to anything. Most of the time, simply liking a woman, now if he's repeatedly liking all of her pictures, then we can say the liking of the pictures a little bit more, moving in that direction. But a like of a picture here or there, I don't feel comfortable saying that's really a sign, because I know plenty of men who will like a picture and they're not going any further than that. But again, that is your choice to determine if that's still inappropriate behavior. Now let's go to the next level. Leaving a comment on the post. A little bit worse than a like, but again, I question how far can the comment go unless it's a blatantly sexual, flirting, trying to get at you comment, all right? Then that's different. But again, a standard, let's just say it's a praise emoji, the 2 hands type of thing, right? In a sea of comments, I don't see that materializing into anything. Maybe I'm being naive, so let me just throw that out there. But I just don't see that turn anything. So likes, comments, you can still deem it inappropriate, but I'm not gonna put that in, oh well, that's like leading to cheating behavior. But once we get to DMs, right? Once we slide it in the DMs, that's a direct shot that's a head-on hit. Like, yo, I'm here. I see you. See me. What's up? All right, like that's what's going on here. So to me, again, now is it possible for a man to do all that and still not take it further? It's possible. Yes, there are some men who like to flirt, and it may be validation. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying you should accept it. I'm just explaining that is a possible thing, right? But again, the problem is that is an open door, because if he flirts and slides in the DMs, even if he says, yo, it's harmless, I ain't trying to really get at her, I'm not trying to make anything happen. But what happens if she responds and says, hey, I think you look good. Like, I'm interested. Will he be disciplined enough to be like, nah, I was just trying to flirt, just trying to say hello. It's no big deal. Like, this is where it gets really, really risky. So DM behavior, messaging in the inbox, whatever, that to me is dangerous behavior. All right. And definitely something that needs to at least be addressed. Now, I'm just going to throw it out there. If you are a woman who's like, it ain't a big deal to me, because it's possible there's some women who don't care, that's on you. I'm just throwing out things that are maybe typical behaviors, that may be signs. It's not a 100%, but yeah, DM sliding, that's probably a problem. Now we get to number 6. And remember, number 7 is a big one. So please hold on for number 7, all right? But number 6 type of man who will cheat on you is a man who hides you, all right? And in reality, if he's hiding you, he's probably already cheating on you. I'm sorry to laugh. Forgive me, because some of y'all may be dealing with that situation, and I don't want to make it a laughing matter. But unfortunately, yes, the hiding of you typically may indicate that he already had somebody else, that you are the side chick. So whether you call it you're being cheated on or cheated with, cheating is already occurring in the scenario. And if it's not already occurring, because maybe in some situations, this is just a reality, some men are not proud of who they're sleeping with. So they will hide that woman. They will not show that woman to the world. They will only meet in secret places and things like that. That's still a man that is not going to close off his other options. You know what I'm saying? If he's with you and he's hiding you, then he either doesn't want other women to find out about you, more than likely, or he even if he's ashamed, that means he still wants something better. There's a lot of variables going on here, but the bottom line is, like, the behavior of a faithful man is not to hide his woman. Plain and simple. And so the only caveat to that, and when I say caveat, let me break it down further. I do think there's a difference between hiding in general and hiding on social media. Now, I am not here to say that it's up to you whether you're okay to keep your relationship off of social media and to keep it private, all right? I think that's the best way to do it, to be quite honest with you. I think that's the safest way to take it. I do understand the concern that when someone engages in that, what else are they hiding? Why are they hiding? So on and so forth. And I would argue with you, or I would counter that by saying, evaluate his overall behavior. Typically, the man who hides you on social media and is doing dirt, and again, I use the word typically because there's always exceptions to the rule. Typically, this man is showing other unhealthy behaviors. He's not giving you what you need. There's maybe neglect in other areas. It isn't just he's perfect in every way, but he only doesn't show you on social media. That's not typically the case of the man who is trying to do dirt, trying to be shady, trying to creep in these streets, all right? So I would then say to you, the guy who is loving you, pouring into you, he doesn't hide you in his world when you're out about. Family knows about all these things. But maybe he doesn't post you all over. And maybe he doesn't ask you to post him all over. It is a possibility that he is just one of those people that wants to keep it private, doesn't want people all up in y'all business. So have that discussion. Don't just assume that that's the issue. But again, evaluate the overall behavior, evaluate the overall treatment as to what's going on here. I do understand that, yes, you could have some guys who treat you great, hide you on social media, and that's because they are doing stuff. But I don't think we should just be jumping to that conclusion. It needs a more in-depth exploration of the scenario, of the dynamic overall, to determine what's really going on here and what is his motivation behind hiding you online. But in general, if he's hiding you, then yeah, that's a really, really bad sign. And now the big one. All right, I told you to wait for number 7. I need you to hear this. I want you, before you hear number 7, to take a deep breath, get to a really calm place. All right, fight the urge to be triggered because it's my trigger. All right, but just follow me. If you were willing to listen to the first 6, I need you to be willing to listen to number 7. All right. So the 7th type of man who will cheat on you is a man who is being sexually and emotionally neglected. Now listen, I know that people like to make it all about the cheater. And I'm in no way saying that cheating is okay. And I know some of you will say, well, if he's being neglected or if he has to cheat, why won't he just leave? Now let's be honest here. Let's flip this for a second. All right. And I know this won't apply to all of you, but if some of you are going to be honest with me, think about this. You as a woman, you're with a man. Let's say you've been with him for 5 years now. Let's say you guys have kids, you have bank accounts together, you have an established life together, all right? And in year 5, whether it started in year 5 or year 5 was the point that it started to wear down on you the most, you have been emotionally neglected by this man. And even sexually, in the sense of actual satisfaction. Like, he may want to have sex, but it ain't never good for you, okay? So the sex ain't good. He's emotionally neglecting you. You bring this to his attention many times. He does nothing to correct it. It's always an excuse. It's you crazy. It's you tripping. It's this, it's that. It doesn't get fixed. Now, people could say, if you ain't happy, just leave. But we know in that scenario, it ain't that simple. I'm not saying that ideally, if you're gonna feel the need to cheat because you're being neglected here, and then you're coming across men who are trying to pour into you in the ways that you are not being fed at home, there is naturally a temptation to grab hold of that. And that temptation to grab hold of that can lead to, even if it was not the intention, it can lead to sexual relations, all right? And some people would argue it doesn't even have to get to sex for it to be cheating. But the point is, though it may be the right thing to do to leave before you cheat, I think if we're being honest, we understand it's not that simple, all right? Now, I say that, again, not to validate cheating. I say that to bring it back to the point of we've got to take a more serious approach or consideration of neglect in a relationship. So I made that example about you, but now let's flip it back to the man. You can't neglect the man, and let's start with sexually, but we're going to talk about emotionally because that's a big deal. You can't neglect the man sexually. And though I know many of you listening, may believe in sex till marriage. So whether you're putting this in the box of marriage, or if you guys are already sexually active in a relationship before marriage, whatever, you can't, once you cross that line and you being sexually engaging with each other, now pull that away, neglect him, and think everything's gonna be okay. All right. Now I understand some situations, medical situations, things like that happen, and I would argue that those scenarios, I've seen many of men be willing to be patient and understanding through things that are out of the woman's control. So it's one thing for it to be out of your control, neglect. It's another thing for it to be blatant, you're just dismissing. It's the same way of the other example, the man dismissing the woman's feelings and you're dismissing his needs. You can't keep doing that. So an analogy I like to give, all right, is that imagine you're a woman and you have a child and you tell that child you can eat nowhere else but in this house. You will get fed in this house. If I catch you eating somewhere else, we're going to have a problem. All right. Day 1, the child comes home. I'm hungry. Oh, I'm tired. You know what? I'll feed you tomorrow. All right. Day 2, I've been so busy. You know what? I'll get to you tomorrow. Day 3, day 4. We are now on day 7. The child has not eaten. Child's walking home. Some person comes up to a child. Dear child, you look malnourished. Here's a sandwich. Eat something, please. Now the child knows, damn, I should not take this food. Because my mama or this lady said to me, the woman who takes care of me said, don't eat outside this house. But damn, I'm starving. Maybe a bite won't hurt. Maybe I'm just going to eat the whole damn sandwich. All right. Either way, now the child comes home and you say, how dare you? How dare you eat outside this house? But you starved them for 7 days. Now I'm just using 7 days. However many days is too long in your relationship for going without sex, that's between y'all. What I'm saying to you is, again, we can't neglect our partner, men or women. Even though we're talking about women neglecting men right now, it goes both ways. We cannot neglect our partner and think that's okay, and think we can make excuses for that and that should be accepted. But if they do something wrong, now it's all on them. That's not right. And we have to understand, we have to address these issues at the root. Now, yes, let me just say this real quick. I know some of you will say you could do all of this and they still cheat on you. Great. Yes, that's very possible. And sometimes you're just with the wrong person and there's no way around it. What I'm explaining with neglect, don't use that to validate neglect. It's one thing if you are doing your part and they still, okay, now we know they ain't worth it, leave them, all right? Or we don't need to be in this relationship. But when we know we've been neglecting them, we need to acknowledge that. We need to have some personal accountability in that area. Now, I mentioned sexually, but I have to mention emotionally. I'll never forget one time a man said to me, because I had this plan to write a book all about cheating, breaking it down from every angle. And the man said to me, make sure when you write this book that you tell women a lot of the cheating does not start from sexual desire. It does not start from the man seeking out sex. It starts with an emotional void, all right? Being at home with a woman who doesn't believe in him, doesn't support him, doesn't pour into him in that way. And what happens in a lot of scenarios is that void is now being filled by another woman comes along who now pours into that man in that way. And let me tell you, there are some women out there who can they know when that man's not getting what he needs. And if she's hunting for a man, she gonna work her magic, all right? So now she's telling, you so amazing. If you were my man, you know what I would do for you. All this stuff. And it's drawing him in and drawing him in and drawing him in. And again, because a lot of men don't understand how to shut the closed doors before you get too deep in, how to catch yourself before it crosses a line, some men end up now finding themselves all caught up, and now that emotional fulfillment turns into sexual desire or turns into sexual willingness with that woman. Which is why in some scenarios, y'all will notice where the man cheats on a woman and she don't even compare to the main woman, his wife or whoever. But it's because she was pouring into him in the ways that he felt the void. Now, again, I have to repeat, this is not to validate cheating. This is not to say it's okay. But I'm trying to break it down in a way that we can actually start to take a more effective approach. Because if I'm being honest, I do believe this perception of when they cheat, we just ignore the idea of neglect being involved here is sabotaging relationships. It's destroying relationships because you can't just put it all on them and not hold ourselves accountable for what we're supposed to bring to the table. All right. So all that to say, yes, I think that there are a lot of people who cheated, who thought and said out of their mouth, I would never cheat on somebody, and genuinely believe that. All right. But as I said earlier, circumstances, the buttons being pushed, the right type of vulnerability at the right moment can lead to very bad decisions, all right, and unhealthy behavior and open the door to cheating. And so though there are men out there who live that lifestyle, who they believe that's what they do, and they probably will line up with a lot of the other things I mentioned earlier in this video, there are some situations where that was not his core character. That's not what he believes in, but there's a position he found himself in, and the line he found himself crossing. Doesn't make it okay, needs to be corrected, needs to be addressed. But we have to take neglect very seriously and understand that how that plays a role in our relationships going in the wrong direction. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there.
You know, if a lot more people would date with intention, then we would have a lot less people getting played, having their time wasted, getting their heart broken, being led on, right? And being disappointed.